Welcome to episode 4 of the Clever Dicks podcast. In this podcast, Jim and Duncan talk to Brian Gray. Brian is quite well known in Auckland swimming circles, having done some amazing swims. We will cover his moustache, his big swims, especially his swim around Waiheke Island, his approach to training and also how he does his nutrition and feeding, and then some views on swimming for charity. Enjoy. Well, Brian, welcome to the Clever Dicks podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So, Brian, we thought that maybe we'd start off this podcast by giving you an opportunity for you to tell us a little bit about your swimming journey, sort of how you got into it and where you are at the moment.
Well, I'm a pretty average sort of a guy. I never did swimming when I was young. I was not in any squads or anything like that. Came back from London in the early 2000s and had put on a bit of weight and decided that I needed to try and remove that. I joined a squad then and I've been swimming ever since. My first big swim though, I say I didn't swim when I was young. Swam one summer. We had a teacher at school who decided to be quite cool if a bunch of students swam the length of Lake Taupo in relay and then cycled around it and then ran around it.
Wow.
And that sort of opened my eyes, I think. And as I suppose we'll get into later, I went back and had a crack by myself. But that was the first exposure to big swimming.
That's kind of impressive because you say that you're an average guy, but you can swim pretty fast, well, at least compared to me, which I suppose is relevant how fast that actually is. But most really sort of strong, fast swimmers have got a really good base from when they were kind of at school. You're saying that wasn't you?
That definitely wasn't me. Since I have been swimming, I have been doing it very regularly, and I think that makes a big difference. So I swim for the last 4 years, I suppose. I've swum every day during the week. If I've got a big swim coming up, I'll swim in the weekends as well. So I've pretty average guy, but I think the difference is that I really apply myself.
Yeah, I've got to chip in for a second. Pretty average, right? Just for the listeners' benefit, we normally do a little bit of a description, right? Roger, we spoke about his eyebrows. You know what we're going to talk about now, right?
Well, I've got the same sort of hairbrand thing going on. Roger's got his eyebrows. When he gets angry and his eyebrows go together, it probably looks much like my moustache. In fact, I could probably lend him some of my hair wax. Sorry, Roger.
So Brian's 51, sitting across the table now, pretty lean and mean. You've got a moustache that's curled at the tips. Looks like you're falling out of a Sherlock Holmes movie or maybe one of those old gangster type movies. So if you guys can picture, Johnny Depp trying to fit a wetsuit on and doing a couple of killer swims, that's what we got sitting in front of us right now. How does the water affect your moustache before we get to the serious stuff?
Well,
Surely
it's pretty careful. When it gets wet, we get the old, is it acrodynamics? It turns from a smiley face into a sad face and helps the filter. When you come out of the harbour and you wipe your moustache on your towel, it's green and lightning. It's a bit spooky. Collects all the fecal matter and things.
Okay.
What started you on the marathon swimming journey? So we've spoken a little bit about your background, and you wanted to get into it to lose a little bit of weight. But how did you get from there to some of the stupid stuff that you've done, which we'll speak about shortly?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I don't really know. It had been ideas in my mind as sort of a slow burn. So something that will get in there and then it'll slowly occupy more and more space. And then a friend of mine, Nev, wanted to swim tupō, and I'd come to that conclusion myself a couple of months before. So we teamed up and swam together. And,
when was that? What year was that?
I had my first crack, I think it was 3 years ago, and I wasn't very successful.
Yep.
One of my superpowers is my naivety. So when I did that, I trained and I felt really good. And I decided not to pay someone an exorbitant amount of money to take me across the lake.
Yep.
So I booked one of these trout fishermen in his boat 3 months in advance for this particular Saturday. And
irrespective of weather and anything else that goes with it.
Yeah, it ends up that's not what you do. so I did learn quite a bit. I think it was 28k, and I also had a blow up boat, and Tupou, you know what it's like, kicked up a storm.
Yep. So there was the trout fisherman and a blow up boat, so 2 craft with you.
Yep. And it wasn't a rigid hull. And so we're swimming straight into these, they were metre high waves, and the boat was literally folding in half. And all the cushions and things were getting blown off. And everyone was vomiting, including me. And I've got a bit of an ego, and my speed had slowed down to about 1k an hour.
Wow.
And I wanted to beat Nev. So I called it there, and then we went back and had dinner at the end of the lake, and when we came out from dinner, it was just dead flat. So
Nev was in the water with you?
No,
or did he swim it on a different day?
I think he'd done it a month before.
Okay. And what would you typically... So you learned some lessons, you came back and you got your shit together. What does an average training week look like for you in terms of, I don't know, distance, number of swims?
Well, I get up 5 o'clock every morning, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'll swim for an hour and a half with the squads, and then I'll do another half. I bike in as well, so biking in is a great warm-up, and then swimming on Tuesday, Thursdays I'll bike in, and then gym for 45 minutes, and then swim, and then it's compulsory coffees.
Brian, you're a bit of a gymmer as well as a swimmer. What was the last achievement that you managed to do in the gym?
Oh, yeah. So last month they have a monthly challenge at the TEPS gym. And last month was how many consecutive sit-ups you could do. And I managed to beat all the gym bunnies and the gym instructors by doing... There's a cocky young fella, I hope he doesn't hear this. This young boxer who he did 173 sit-ups, and then I did 200.
Nice.
So I leave it at the 200 just to say, wow, I could have done more. So it surprised me. I kind of, in some ways, feel like it's my greatest sporting achievement because I hadn't done sit-ups
training
in years, and then this comes up, and I don't know how it happened when everyone else was doing like 30 and 40.
So was that based on strength, fitness, or ego that you managed to do that?
I think it was a combination of all the above. I've slowed my swimming down a lot and gotten a better base, better aerobic base, and it's all around, like, if you look at what endurance swimming is, it's using your slow twitch muscle fibers.
Yep.
So they work primarily off fat. If you swim faster, then you're burning using fast twitch muscle fibers, which are going off your stored carbs, off your glycogen, which is really, it's like a dirty engine.
Okay.
And when you're using your glycogen, your body's also producing lots of bad byproducts.
Okay.
So cortisol, human stress hormone, and free radicals, lots of inflammatories.
Yep.
When you're recovering from swimming, you're pretty much recovering from using your fast twitch fibers and burning glycogen. So what I've done is slow down a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think the best way of visualizing it, if you had an XY axis graph, I won't get technical, but if along the bottom you have effort and up the side you have number of muscle twitches or activations, when you're just yabbering on the side of the pool, not doing anything, you're not activating any muscle fibers and you're not putting in any effort. But if you were to swim slow, it's your slow twitch muscle fibers that would get activated.
Yep.
And the faster you swim, the further they would go up. And it represented by a bell-shaped curve, essentially. When you start swimming faster and faster, they start dropping. And they drop because your fast twitch muscle fibers take over. And you would have, if you can imagine, another bell curve to the right with some overlap.
Yep.
And the right one is your fast twitch muscle fibers. So if you want to do endurance training, you should be targeting the peak of your slow twitch, because slow twitch muscle fibers are your endurance fibers.
So slower swimming, but longer swimming.
Yes. I think the idea of endurance is to push the right side of that bell curve to the right so that you can swim faster by still putting in the same amount of effort. And if you target that, what happens is that you build up your mitochondria, which are your energy cells of the body.
Yep.
You build up more corpuscles, so the blood's vessels that are going to and from your muscle fibers are built up. You build up your fat max, which is the amount of...
I'm good at that, Joe.
Yeah. And there's ways of doing that, but the thing is, by just concentrating on that, you build up your aerobic threshold and be a faster swimmer. And that will make you faster, because if you can imagine running a marathon, if you get tired, you slow down.
That's kind of interesting, but a lot of athletes, or sort of weekend athletes, or whatever you want to call it, spend way too much time exercising in I've heard it described as the grey zone, where they don't ever really push themselves, and yet they don't really build up their, they don't really get that much fitter. People will go for a run and they'll be quite comfortable running and chatting with their mates for ages. But that's not really what you're talking about when you say swim slower, is it?
No, because you could be training halfway between those two peaks. And so you're thrashing your body more than you need to, because you're using more, making more cortisol, and you need to recover more. Where if you slow down a bit, and the way that you work out how fast or how much effort you should be putting in is based on your heart rate. So the easiest way is 180 minus your age.
I thought it was 220.
That's your maximum.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Another, a bit more refined way is your maximum heart rate minus your age, and then you can adjust it. So if you've been sick, you take off another 5.
Okay.
If you've been training well for 2 years, you put on another 10.
So, Duncan, that means that my training heart rate is what?
It's about 50.
You can imagine these young guys, if you're 20, then you're probably doing once, you might be hard pressed to get it. But the exciting thing is that this is quite measurable. So you can test yourself, and people don't really, I find, expect to get better as you age. I expect to get better. But you can test yourself you do a warm up, and I tend to do my test after I've done squats. Swim a kilometre and don't go over whatever that heart rate is, and see how long it takes you. And then if you decide to do this, keep on swimming, say, for a couple of months. Usually for your base training, you're doing off season. Because later on, I'm saying you build this anaerobic base. It's kind of an 80-20 thing. You still need to swim fast. Yeah. I think everyone agrees with this 80-20 thing. What people don't agree with is what that 20% should be, whether it's pyramid or whatever. Anyway, so you swim for a K, see how long it takes, and then test yourself in a month.
Obviously get further. So how are you faster than what you were 4 years ago? With swimming slower, if that makes any sense. Do you think you can do a marathon swim further or faster and more efficiently than what you could a couple of years ago?
Well, I've only been doing this for the last 3 or 4 months. I know I'm certainly faster now because I keep all my results. And since I bothered putting in more effort 4 years ago, my race positions have definitely changed. I'm
climbing up the ladder.
Yeah, so...
Or you're getting into that sort of age category where the guys are starting to die off, right? Well, that's your category, right?
I think you'll find there's some pretty bloody fast ones. So I usually win my age group.
Yeah.
Pretty much always now, and I never used to.
So you said you weren't going to be technical, but this has been pretty technical, right? And I've got a pretty low IQ and a bad education. What does that equate to a basic guy like me in terms of, in your base phase, what does your mileage look like? Let's say you're training for a I don't know, English Channel or a Lake Taupo, and you want to try and get 30 or 40 Ks done for your crossing or your race, for lack of a better word. What does base look like? Maybe how many months in advance do you start your training for an event?
Yep. So I never really finish, but in winter I'll drop down, and I do less now than I used to because I'm doing more strength and conditioning, which is really important. Everyone should be looking after their shoulders. Well, so last year I did round Waiheke and I was swimming up to 80k a week.
That's a lot of swimming. Right. How far is it around Waiheke? When did you do it? Why did you do it?
Well, you finish one swim, and I finished Taupo when I actually was successful, and you kind of have something simmering in your head. And my idea was Waiheke because it's close, and I thought it'd be easy. Got cousins.
Nobody's done it before, right?
No, but it seemed quite grandiose and fitting for my ego. I thought it'd be easier to get help.
Was it?
No. I had 3 different boats. Like, no one wanted to take me around the whole way, so I had shifts of 7 hours. It can't be 7 hours because it didn't take that long. It was the same as Taupo, actually.
About 13 hours or so? Distance?
50. Yeah, I think it's practically exactly the same.
To swim 55 kilometres, right?
Yeah. Yep.
What time of the day did you start?
I started at 4 a.m.
In the dark?
Pitch, yeah. So I'd agreed with the boat that I was going to swim right next to them the whole way.
Sure. And it always happens perfectly, right?
Absolutely pitch black. And I just was thinking about sharks. And so as soon as he'd go, I just took off in a totally different direction across the shore and swam behind a rock. So 10 minutes of that time, like, they were looking for me. I couldn't see them. They couldn't see me. I didn't know why, but I was behind this rock. And then after 5 minutes, my eyes slowly adjusted, and then I swam back out with my
tail. Did you have a glow stick on, or a safety toe or anything like that?
I didn't have a toe, but I had a light on my togs and a light on the back of my head.
And your crew were used to looking after swimmers or not?
No.
Okay, so maybe just, again, lessons learned. If is it important to have somebody that knows you on the boat?
Yeah,
and maybe somebody that's used to shepherding swimmers and know where to position the boat in terms of where you're looking, what you're aiming for as a swimmer, and all of those good things. I mean, again, hindsight, if you went back, would you change that?
I was getting whoever I could to help me, and I had a last minute pull out.
Did he ask you, Jim? No, didn't ask me.
Only wants competent people.
So that first Tupper one, I had asked some mates from work to... so I didn't have any swimmers or anything, and it was...
Did they hang their fishing rods over the side?
They did. Well, they did. They caught 6 fish. So the fisherman guy, he just took off all day, and they'd go off catching fish, and the small boat was beside me the whole way.
That's definitely not ideal, way.
But I was just so appreciative that people would
help you.
Yeah.
Did you train for the dock? I mean, I know you've done the miles and you've done all the base work, but did you do any homework of training in the dock as preparation?
I don't care. This does.
Yep.
Nothing bothers me. We had a couple of overnight swims at the Falls pool.
Yep.
And I'd done tupu before. I prefer swimming in the dark.
Okay.
And it was so cool. You had all the bioluminescence.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Did you get any lights on the boat, or?
There were a couple, but no spotlights because I didn't want to attract any sea life, as they say.
So what is bioluminescence? Why is it there? Do you know why it's there? I did a bit of reading. I did a swim at Takapuna.
It's plankton.
Is it?
Isn't it?
I heard it's like when the water's really dirty and there's a bit of shit floating around and, the plankton comes to feed on it. And so it's probably not ideal when you do see it. I know everybody's like, wow, that's cool.
Nah, I've had bioluminescence in really clear water.
Yeah, and on the north side of Waiheke, it's pretty clean there. The freaky bit is when you look down and you see the swish of bioluminescence down deep and you go, oh,
what's that? What do you feed on? How often do you feed?
Every half hour. So you wait an hour to let your insulin levels sort themselves out.
Yep.
But, I mean, I'm starting to change my mind about feeding as well. Like, that's the whole nutrition thing I find even more fascinating, because if you look at how many calories you can absorb an hour, that's around 360. And your body can store maybe 1,800 if you're 2,000 if you're lucky, should we say.
So you should get to a couple of hours before you actually need calories?
Yeah, but you can't get many calories. You're going to get 360 an hour, and I don't know how many calories you think you use.
But if you're burning fat, isn't the ideal option just to eat Maccas the whole way around?
No. See, the thing is, I think you find that there are a lot of athletes that are actually pre-diabetic. And when the insulin's really bad, if you build insulin resistance, you take a lot of gels, and then that's telling your body to store fat. Whereas you want the opposite.
Slow burning.
Yeah.
So Roger's chocolate fish is not ideal for swimming Lake Taupo, eh?
Well, then it always kind of comes back to, I mean, you can take as much advice as you can from around the world, but you've got to work out what works for you, right?
Yeah, you do. But if you're going long, everyone gets, I think I heard 30% of people are intolerant to fructose. And everyone gets sore stomachs. You shouldn't rely on gels. And I think I read on the Hammer website that you should take those gels for like 4 or 5 hours or something.
Maximum.
So you need a plan B, and you're better off getting fed as much from fat as you can. And the good guys can get 2 grams of fat a minute, which is...
So what are you eating? Do you eat?
Yeah, I do. You should train hungry if you're a male. So never have anything beforehand, because that builds your fat max.
Okay.
And
this is why I'm 90 kilos. Doing everything wrong. My peanut butter toast before I swim is not the right thing to do.
But I mean, you're getting your insulin up.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, I've read the same thing. Yeah, I don't eat ever before I swim.
So I met a guy once that used to eat chicken nuggets on his swims. You reckon that would work? There's a protein content, a fat content.
Well, you don't need. So you do need protein because your body starts to break your body down. So you should have some protein, but I think you only need about 10% or something. Or
so are you all liquids, right? So you've got some form of pure or tailwind or whatever the case might be, and you're getting it all in liquid format?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm doing that, the other weekend we swam around the harbour for 3.5 hours.
Yep.
And I didn't have anything before and I didn't have anything during. But I was doing that lower heart rate and got absolutely no cravings for food. Didn't feel like I needed the hot chocolate afterwards or muffin. And I felt amazing.
So you had water in between?
No. You don't actually need a lot of water. If you start swimming dehydrated, you're in trouble.
Yep.
But for marathon runners, for example, it improves their performance. They get lighter.
But they're only running for 2 hours, 3 hours. I mean, you're in the water for 13 hours.
Well, they're sweating a lot more than I am.
Okay.
They get a lot hotter. I mean, I'm not saying don't drink because
there's a whole bunch of marathon swimmers that are going to listen to this and die in the next 6 months. Come back and go, oh my God, massive dehydration.
Well, didn't you know that Boston Marathon, they had lots of people dying from drinking too much?
Yeah. I actually remember that. Yeah. Overhydration. There's a word for it, right?
Yeah.
Just to maybe backtrack a second, right? Just again for listeners' benefit. You're quite comfortable in a wetsuit and in skin. So, for example, when you are doing a shorter Ocean Swim Series race, for example, I see you in a wetsuit. I'm guessing, obviously, you're competitive in terms of speed on those days and you want to keep up with the rest of the field or get ahead of the rest of the field. But you're equally comfortable without your wetsuit, and all of these marathon swims that we've spoken about to date have been without your wetsuit, right? Is there a preference, wetsuit versus non?
I prefer wetsuit.
Yeah,
I think my fat ass drags or something.
Okay, so you're more efficient.
The compensation of the floaty bum.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a vanity thing as well because I swim a lot faster for sure.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, I see. So vanity for me in a wetsuit is it just keeps my paunch in.
Jim's corset.
Yeah, Jim's corset.
How much do you weigh? You just keep on talking about your big ass and your chubby thighs. I wouldn't put you much more than about 80, 82 kilos.
Well, it's funny, since I've started this slow stuff, I've been dropping a kg a week.
Mm-hmm.
And
so your thighs don't chafe as much, right?
Nah, well, I haven't been doing as much ocean swimming, just that 3.5 hour on the weekend. So I'm 84.5 now.
Okay. Now, you have another crazy mate that you do some swims with in terms of Jono.
Yeah.
And Jono obviously went out and did a 100k swim. Was it 100 or was it like 99.9?
Yeah, I think it was 99.1, wasn't it?
Okay. We're going to call it 100, right? Because he's a legend. I'm going to put you on the spot, right? Can you beat that?
Yeah.
Any plans down the line?
Yeah.
Does John know about that?
It's a world first. It's out here now.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
nice.
But not this season, because last season I was away a lot and I wouldn't be home before 12 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday. It was a bit rough. And my daughter's just finished her last day of school, so she's off next year, so we need to spend a bit of time together. But
how many kids have you got?
I've got 2, an elder daughter and a younger son.
Cool. So it's what, 17 and
14.
Okay. So okay, I've got to ask the question, right? Because we all know how tricky it is as an athlete, balancing work, partners, kids, life, etc. How do you do that? Like, what's the impact on the family?
Well, there is no balance. You can't really do anything well.
You can't do 80 Ks a week and
Yeah.
have a happy wife, right?
Or have happy
Careful.
wife. It's all right. She won't listen to this. I'm sure no one will tell her. So I think the balance is year on, year off.
Okay.
In this instance,
Which is probably good for your body as well, right? Because I imagine, swimming 50, 60, 100 Ks, Jono's recovering a little bit at the moment still with, I think it was a wrist injury, if I'm not mistaken. So big year, recovery year probably seems to make sense, right?
I don't know. I don't subscribe to that.
No? Just swim until you broke.
Well, don't swim hard.
There you go.
So you need to recover either
go.
from intensity or duration, but you get a lot more stressed from intensity than you do duration.
So,
After Waiheke, I felt I didn't have a sore muscle.
yeah.
I get a sore throat from breathing in really.
Yeah. And I suppose the water's a bit coarse, eh? So before we leave the Jono topic, I know for a fact that you've lied to Jono. Right, so A doesn't know that you're going to try and whip him.
Jono, I think that you should do a double Waiheke.
Two laps?
Yeah, it'd be
110 Ks?
it'd be far more sensible.
You reckon that's possible, right? If you're quick enough?
Yeah, you need to be quicker. I'm not quick enough to make it round before the tidal change.
Okay.
But I think it'd be, I think head manage or Caitlin, there's any number of, we've got some pretty good swimmers around the country.
Yeah. I know you've got some questions, Jim, but I'm going to sort of go off the beaten track a little bit, right? There's a Netflix documentary out at the moment about Diana Nyad.
I watched it yesterday.
What do you think?
I loved it.
Yeah?
Yep.
You loved the movie or just watching Jodie Foster?
She's not bad, eh?
Not too bad. For
I think she's got a six-pack, doesn't she?
Yeah. I wonder how many sit-ups she can do.
Yeah.
Maybe ask her one day, yeah? When they make your movie. If they made a movie about you, who would be the swimmer? Brad Pitt? With his moustache?
Some middle-aged fat guy.
Big thighs.
Skinny with a big tummy.
So
that the facial hair would be the hard bit.
So there's a lot of debate, obviously, about her swim. What do you reckon? Did she get some assistance? Did she do a little bit of a dodgy with some of the facts, or do you reckon she just is, an incredible feat of nature? I mean, she was in the water for 56 hours?
Yeah,
Something like that?
I think I find fascinating the idea is, why do you stop? Why can't you swim for 2 weeks? So you need to sleep. So that's the upper limit. So if it's not that, then what is it? Is it your mind?
Yep, absolutely.
I reckon it's probably your mind. Is it your muscles? Is it your nutrition? Like, they're all major things. As you get older, your mind gets better. Your muscles get better. You start, some of your fast twitch fibers get recruited more, and that's why people get skinnier as they get older. So you get to be more of an endurance machine.
So I'm obviously still young, just for the record, because I have not started
muscly
losing weight.
So I think it's entirely possible. That might be wishful thinking on my behalf.
So that's really interesting. So when you listen to a lot of the stories of people who do these big marathon swims, especially like the tight ones like the English Channel and places like that, you could get a call at 2 a.m. in the morning saying, we're going in 3 hours, get yourself down, so the ability to actually build that into your circadian rhythm and to have some control is largely eliminated.
Yeah, but if you're only doing one crossing,
I mean,
probably not.
Most people get it done in under 24 hours. I mean, there's a couple of people who've done 25 or more, but yeah.
Oh, the quadruple English Channel was...
No, just a single crossing.
Yes,
So
correct.
Some of them are... Yeah,
the longest one is definitely over 24 hours, Gerard.
Yeah, no, we just had another longest one this year. Yeah,
How long is that?
I think it was 25 something.
Yeah.
So what type of physical features do you think makes a marathon swimmer? Like, is a female swimmer built better for marathon swimming compared to a male?
Well, they have certain advantages, like they're better at burning fat,
Yep.
for example, and better at pain tolerance. There's a generalisation. People don't cancel me.
Yeah.
But better at pain, and I think that's part of why women are so much more successful. Because, as we said, a lot of it's in the mind.
Yep. Okay. What's your preference, swimming in the chop or in the flat?
I seem to do a lot better in the flat.
Yeah.
It's more fun, and I notice in race results.
You do so, just like on like, same people in the chop versus same people in the flat. You'll do better in the flat.
Yep. Okay. So last Koei, I was finishing with people that's finished 2 minutes faster than me in the prior week.
Okay.
When it was rougher.
Okay, that's very interesting, right? So,
but I don't think I'm a very good swimmer. Like,
yeah,
I was starting to get appalled at my at my stroke, trying to work out what I'm doing wrong.
So obviously, does your technique change in the pool versus when you're in the ocean?
I think it does in the flat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier to keep your head down lower.
So is it because you're a better pool swimmer that you swim better in the flat, do you reckon?
I think so.
What would your sort of cadence be on the flat, strokes per minute, for example?
I'm slow, like low 50s.
Okay, so that is pretty slow, yeah?
Yeah. In the pool, I generally have much higher stroke counts.
And it's generally a higher stroke count that will do better in rough conditions, right?
Yeah, it is. So I should be better, shouldn't I?
Something to work on, right?
I notice I do have really different strokes to everyone else in my lane in the pool.
Okay.
And the coach is always shouting at me to get my strokes down, but I don't have the muscle that everyone else has.
Yeah.
But in the open water, I beat pretty much everyone.
Okay.
So the one thing that you're telling me is that you've been dropping the amount of breathing that you do, when you're just cruising, you're kind of one breath for every 8 strokes, which is quite a lot less than most other people. How long has that been going on?
Well, I've been doing that more as part of the low stroke count, low heart rate stuff. You just fall into rhythm doing that test that I was telling you about. So swim a K, push off, look at your watch, see what your heart rate is, and then take a breath, swim halfway, take a breath, and then get to the end, take a breath, and then do it all over again. And it's quite hypnotic. So on Friday I was doing it. I thought I'd done 500, and then I'd done 1,200.
How many breaths do you take when you swim, Jim?
So I normally breathe every 3 strokes.
Yeah. That's probably pretty standard, right? So I do every 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4. 8 is hard.
Yeah, I tried just sticking at 5 instead of 3 for a couple of lengths, and yeah, I was real struggling. So I don't know whether it's just practice makes you better at it, but it wasn't working for me.
Do you do 8 in the open water as well?
No.
What do you do in the open water?
Usually 4, but I'm like, it is good. You don't want to go short of oxygen because that makes a massive change to the amount.
So the 8 is a training scenario, not a
and I don't do it normally in squads, only when I'm swimming
they call it
a K or
hypoxic,
something.
don't they?
Yeah, but hypoxic doesn't work. You need to spend far more time.
Okay.
Like at altitude or sleeping at tent. A cool thing we did the other day was a timed 100.
Yeah.
but you're not allowed to breathe during the length. So you can take as long as you like at the end of the pool.
Yep.
And then when you feel right, you swim, but not allowed to breathe.
For a whole 100?
For 100.
So you can breathe every 25. You can breathe on the tumble turn. Is what I'm understanding it. Yep.
Yeah, but no one's tumble turning because you need to stop and take a couple of gulps of air.
Oh, okay.
But I'm finding now I try and exercise around 3.5 hours a day, and just so much fitter.
Yeah, that's interesting because my research has been saying that if you have more carbon dioxide in your blood, you actually process oxygen better. So that was why I was wondering whether that was kind of your approach to actually doing that. In general, most athletes breathe too much or breathe more than they need, and it actually limits the ability to process oxygen.
Yeah, breathing is really interesting in swimming, and I think people do it quite wrong. Like, you should keep air in your lungs because you want to be buoyant, and you should breathe really fast because then you get to do your stroke better. If you want to see the worst part of anyone swimming, you have a look when they're breathing.
And also, obviously, as they get tired, right? Because that all changes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah.
Salt water or fresh water?
I like the buoyancy.
Okay.
For my ass.
For your chubby thighs.
Got to keep my ass up.
Do you use anti-chafe? And I know you spoke about your physio strips, but like sunblock and stuff like that while you're swimming, or?
Yeah, I put zinc on. So I get a couple of pots. No, in the morning. Okay. It doesn't come off. The good thing about it is that it doesn't come off, and the bad thing about it is that it doesn't come off. So honestly, you look at the last place we were at a bed and breakfast, and the bed was a bit. Ended up. I did tell the person, but evidently it comes off in the washing machine.
Okay, hopefully. I don't know what you're not hesitant to, or you're not keen to divulge when your next big swim is. Is there anything pre a sort of 100k plus type swim in terms of preparation that you can share with us?
Well, see, the part of the thing about doing Waiheke is that it's interesting. Mm-hmm. Doing channel swims, you know what Tupou is like. It's brutal. You sort of swim forever, and then you get halfway and you look at that island and it just doesn't move. And then you look up and you see the point, and you never get any closer. So Waiheke was the opposite of that, and designed with that in mind as well. So the next swim is even more like that.
Okay. Cryptic clues, yeah.
So if anyone, any volunteers for seconds,
was this from Cape Reinga down to Wellington? Was it?
No, just something a bit different, not done before.
Okay, well, I'll put it out there. I'm available to help if you're looking for somebody that knows how to look after a swimmer. We're keen.
Yeah, it's not the most exciting of things, is it? Watching someone swim.
Oh, we've done support for one Taupo swimmer, so we've got an inkling of what it's about.
Yeah,
I found it quite motivating, right? Because you'll sit there watching your swimmer do their thing, and you're like, I've got to get out there, I've got to start training, I've got to set some goals, I've got to do this, got to do that, So.
Oh, no, I went the other way. Look at that. That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. There is zero chance that I'm going to do that.
The last swim was for Starship, and we raised quite a bit, and I'm keen to do it again.
Cool. How much did you raise?
$5,000.
Nice, that's not too bad, yeah?
Yeah, and it was a bit, it was a bit too last minute, so I'd like to do it properly next time.
Couple of months in advance, start getting a little bit of social media going, and
go stand down on the street corner and try and get.
They're pretty good as well. We did a charity swim for them as well. In terms of those November swims, we used to do 12 by 1 miles, etc. And they had quite a good team that would literally, be available for ideas and action, right? So next time you do it, reach out to them and see what they can do, right? Because they're so keen on just any assistance whatsoever, right? So
Yeah.
cool.
Such a cool cause, though.
It is.
And
It is. So, useless information. When I arrived in New Zealand, I was here for 1 week. In fact, we weren't even here for a week. It was probably day 5. And I got introduced to Starship Hospital with my son, who's now 18. He would have been 12. And he had mumps. And, obviously they sort of know what the Kiwis are like. They phoned everybody on the aeroplane and everybody in any position of authority and raised the alarm bells. And I felt like I was going to be deported because my son had mumps. But we got looked after like royalty at the Starship Hospital. And ever since then, any assistance that they can get is just an unbelievable way to do things. So thanks for that, man.
imagine if they weren't here.
Exactly. Brian, you're an inspiration, dude. Thank you so much for your time.
Most welcome.
Anytime you want to come back and share some thoughts and, have a beer with Jim. How was the beer, by the way?
Very good.
Yeah.
Jim and I are brewing brothers.
Brewing brothers?
We have all the same hobbies. We're swimmers, obviously, and beekeepers. Jim's always helping me out with my poor beekeeping skills, and we brew and into woodwork.
When do you find time for any... Do you work?
Who's listening?
It was great talking to Brian. Thanks very much for joining us, Brian. If you want to follow Brian, he has absolutely promised, even threatened, to keep his Instagram account more up to date. If you want to follow him there, it's bmeistergray. I'll put a link in the show notes. As always, if you've got any suggestions for content or from improvements to the podcast, please send them through to cleverdicksnz@gmail.com. Thanks very much for listening, and if you enjoyed this, please tell your friends about it.